Good afternoon, everybody. I'm meteorologist Tony Sadiku. It's Tuesday afternoon. I wanted to take a moment to provide an update on Idalia for all of our digital watchers. So we still have a Cat 1 hurricane. Remember, it became a hurricane early this morning. As of the 11 o'clock update, it is still a Cat 1 hurricane, but it is strengthening. The pressure is lower, the winds are stronger, and it's starting to look a little bit better on infrared satellite. In fact, you look closely, you could see a couple of dots of white every once in a while. That is lightning around the center. That's a signal of a strengthening storm, and we expect it to continue to move in at a favorable environment for strengthening and become a Category 3 hurricane by the time it makes landfall in the Big Bend. Outer bands already beginning to impact parts of the state with periods of showers and storms across portions of the state. So you're going to be contending with that a little bit as you continue to finalize those preps. And I encourage those preps to be completed by about sunset tonight. And that's when you kind of want to hunker down and wait through the worst of the weather. We expect the roughest part of the storm to be late tonight, overnight into early tomorrow, with impacts through the day tomorrow as well. All right, so here's the update. As of 11 o'clock, we've got an 85-mile-per-hour storm, okay? So it's a Cat 1. When those winds reach 96, it becomes a Cat 2. We expect that to happen at some point this afternoon and then make Category 3 strength by the time it makes landfall tomorrow morning. It's important to note, 1:30 makes it a Cat 4, so it's going to be close to Cat 4 strength according to this update by the time it moves in the Big Bend. You also look at the track. The track has not changed, so we're still looking for a landfall somewhere in the Big Bend, maybe north of Cedar Key, Steinhatchee, maybe just to the east of Tallahassee. Somewhere in that vicinity, they're going to feel the worst of the storm as it makes landfall and then continues to move to the north. It's a fast-moving storm, so it's not going to dilly-dally, but it is going to have severe impacts on our weather over the next day, day and a half. So water temperatures are very warm in this vicinity. We're talking 85, 86 degrees and deep into the ocean. So that is going to provide fuel for strengthening as well as wind shear, which is going to relax, and that's why we expect this thing to ramp up fast. Now, the watches and warnings haven't changed. We're still under a hurricane warning. All those counties from Citrus down to Manatee, tropical storm force warning, Sarasota, those interior counties. But the more serious threat is the storm surge, and the more serious warning is a storm surge warning. That's the loudest bell the National Weather Service can ring for a storm that has the potential to be life-threatening. A lot of questions on how bad it gets. You can kind of take this and look at it as a reasonable worst-case scenario. And we're thinking in and around the Tampa Bay area, 4 to 7 feet of storm surge is probable. To the north, 6 to 9 up across the Nature Coast. And as you work your way into the Big Bend, the updated number is for potentially 10 to 15 feet of storm surge. That would be catastrophic, life-threatening, and frankly unsurvivable in this location. So still a lot of impacts. You see the impacts up and down the coast, and this is why essentially evacuations have been issued, because storm surge, water is the deadliest aspect of any tropical system. We always say you can hide from the wind, but you got to run from the water. Now we expect the winds to really ramp up with this as the storm passes to our west. Tropical storm force winds, which you see there, 40 miles an hour and above, we expect that to be common, especially along the immediate coastline and areas to the north. The further inland you go, you're going to feel the storm, but probably not to the magnitude as those along the coast. That's because, at least the way it stands, the hurricane force wind field extends only about 15 miles from the center of Idalia. But the tropical storm force winds extend out 160 miles. So it's more likely that we're dealing with tropical storm force winds across west central Florida. Those winds are strong enough to do damage and create a big storm surge issue. But I don't anticipate like widespread hurricane force winds, at least based on the current track. But storm surge, as we've been talking about, is the major concern, and we got to take this seriously. Remember, it's a coastal concern. If you live inland, you're not worried about storm surge. You've got other impacts that you got to worry about, but along the coast is where we expect that surge to be a problem. And you see the times on your screen right there. These are the times where we've got those winds that are turning on shore, and we've got higher than normal tide. So we've got high tide at these times. So we expect that to exaggerate the impacts, the surge. Not to mention that we've got a higher than normal tide due to a full supermoon that's going to be taking place tomorrow. So that extra gravitational pull will exaggerate the tide and the surge at these times. So take note of that. Remember, it's going to be times in and around that time that we'd see the worst surge impact. So we've got to take that seriously if you live along the coast. All right, so here's another look at Futurecast. It gives you an idea of the timing. I think through the day today, the weather is going to be okay. It's going to be deteriorating by late tonight. Periods of rain with those outer bands will be a part of the story this afternoon into the early evening. By sunset, I'd say you want to be hunkered down for those worsening impacts, and we expect the storm to pass just to our west around midnight tonight with those heavy rain bands really lashing the coast with those strong hurricane force winds that are going to pile water on shore after that and continue to give us rounds of rain through the early part of the day tomorrow. But you see how those wind arrows go on shore? That's when we really have to be concerned about that surge threat. And tomorrow is not going to be a safe day to be outside, at least the first part of the day. We expect gradual improvements the second half of the day, but we still have to worry about that secondary surge that could be a possibility tomorrow afternoon. So there are two tides that we're worried about. Tonight, overnight, and then tomorrow, early afternoon. So your wind gusts kind of give you an idea of the kind of winds to be prepared for. Again, you see the highest numbers along the coast. These are gusts, okay? They're not sustained, but gusts 50 to 60 will be possibility. I-75 and west, and the further inland you go, the lesser we expect those wind impacts to be. They'll be worse through tonight, and then tomorrow morning, they'll still be strong, 20 to 30, but diminishing gradually. It's the winds that will cause power outage problems across our area. We expect that to be a high threat, especially the further north you go. With those winds up to 60, there'll be some rain and severe possibilities too. And this is something we haven't talked a lot about. With a storm that's passing to our west, at some point we're going to be on the northeast side of the storm where we expect the worst impacts to be, but we also, with those outer bands, we can see little spin-ups, little vorticities or rotations within those bands that can lead to isolated brief tornadoes. So we'll have to be mindful of that, make sure you've got multiple ways of getting alerts. So just to recap, hurricane and storm surge warnings are in effect. Tampa Bay area for 4 to 7 feet of surge that could impact the bay, as well as higher numbers. Areas north, we expect tropical storm force winds for most of our viewing area with hurricane force gusts a possibility at the coast. 3 to 6 inches of rain seems reasonable for most of us. There could be issues of flooding. There's a flood watch in effect for our coastal counties. I know a lot of us need the rain, but we do have to be mindful for a situation where we've got surge coming on shore and we've got heavy rain and an issue where we don't have that water, a place for that water to go. So be mindful. You want to avoid flooded roadways, and we'll watch out for that impact as well as the isolated tornadoes that will be possible. Lots to digest. Again, it looks like the worst of the storm will miss us to our west, but we do have to take those other threats seriously. The storm surge threat, be prepared to lose power. Take the day today to rush those preparations to completion. Harden your home. Make sure those lawns, any furniture, you secure them or you bring them inside. Anything that could become a projectile, you're prepared for potentially losing power, that sort of thing. And stick with us. We'll be here with you every step of the way to help keep you and your family safe throughout the duration of this storm. Thanks so much for watching. And of course, we'll have updates throughout the day and tomorrow on air and online.